Audio check here. This is episode 2 of Salty Cheap. Welcome back, friends. This is Jared Hamlin here, and today I am snowed in the Northeast because it's snowy and I don't feel like going anywhere. So, that being said, today is it's the first week of January. It's down. It's off the map. We're done. So, what that means is I hope you've already started with all of your stuff that you wanted to change in life, whatever. My plan this year, 2024, is to become financially free, out of debt, and grow my digital company, Salty Cheap, as large as I can. So, that being said, we're all looking to make changes. Everybody, you know what I mean. There's a popular saying that if you're not growing, you're dying, and it's really relatable at this point because in order to become the best versions of ourselves, we have to be able to embrace that change, right? So, forget the picture perfect models and stuff like that because none of that is actually realistic in terms of fostering real growth. Okay. One of the things that we need to look at here is that there's the anti-guru method, okay, because that's not real. All right, you need to approach your own self-development because you're unique, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't have the fact that you are a unique individual, but then all these frameworks that were built for cookie cutters, like that doesn't, it's not going to work. So there's a power with systems and frameworks that you can use, but you still have to apply your individualism to them because they're not going to work for you. Because the generic cookie cutter stuff. That's why you have people chasing different like lessons and courses online because they didn't learn what worked for them. Like I don't like waking up early, and you can say that makes me into some kind of loser that doesn't want to get up. I just don't like getting up early. I'd rather work later in the day, work in the middle of the day because that's when my energy levels are at their highest, at their peak. So the one thing I would take away from something like this would be to ditch the hustle hard, achieve everything mentality because what I've found is that's going to leave you down a broken road that's actually not going to be sustainable long term. So, in order to find the new framework out of that, we actually have to look at what your strengths and weaknesses actually are, right? Like if you know you're really good at speaking or writing, or you're good at building pages, or you're good in the gym, whatever your strength is, understanding the strength and level of your habits versus when they actually break down for you. And so when you can understand that stuff, and some of my favorite stuff to do is either to get on a whiteboard or get on a piece of paper with a pen or pencil, whatever you got, and jot these things down for those individual projects. And that's really what's going to be kind of what sets you apart, you know, long term, because if you can find a way to categorize your projects, right, the things you want to get done, and you can establish your rhythm and the routine that works for you, you're going to be able to make those changes. Now, I just wanted to really set the tone for this video here is that if you didn't want to change, you you wouldn't need something to change if we weren't a little screwed up. So the first thing that we can do is look at and acknowledge the fact that yes, I'm screwed up. We make mistakes. Everyone does. To be human is to make mistakes because nobody's a robot. And if you are a robot, chances are good you're not watching this. So, in order to make sustainable, authentic progress, it's important to acknowledge the fact that we make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes all the time. Um, the biggest thing, takeaway, is not letting it kind of control and dictate what your next actions are going to be. Okay, so that's when we talk about these changes. I want you to focus on micro changes. Okay, micro changes for maximum impact. And I think James Clear did this in Atomic Habits, which is good. I read that book a few years ago, but the tiny tweaks are what's going to be kind of like what helps you, long term. So having those tweaks in place and understanding, like, you can do two things. If you, like, some people, they're like, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have some coffee, I'm going to jump right to work, right? And they do those tweaks where they just get right to work for 4 hours. Other people have those large morning routines with like the get up and the go for a walk and write everything down and then drink your coffee or your green juice and your cold light or your red light therapy and your cold immersion plunge and before you know it, it's noon and you're finally ready to start the day. So now I'm not so much of a fool that I don't think there's some physiological benefits to doing those things, but you could get the same benefits from doing a face plunge in a bowl quickly. If you really wanted to just do it, because you get a lot of nerves right here on the face that would kind of simulate the same thing moving forward. Um, let's say your thing is you want to ditch, unhealthy snacks, right? One thing you could do is be cognitive of like going to the grocery store and deciding that you're not going to that you're not going to get unhealthy snacks and stock your cabinets with them. So once they're out of the house, it's going to make it harder for you. You'd actually have to get in your car, bike to your local grocery, wherever you go, and actually find the junk food or go out. But it just reduces the friction for you to actually have the junk food in your house. It's going to make it a lot easier to have the junk food, which is probably something you don't want. Same thing with, let's say your thing is like, I'd like to get up earlier. Excuse me. I want to get up earlier, right? So, but are you staying up till midnight to scroll on your phone or you're out late with friends? I mean, if you're not, like if you want to get up earlier, then it just makes sense that you go to bed earlier or at least wind down earlier and try to go to sleep. But none of that's going to be, immediate. It's still going to take time to develop that habit, which is why we look at those tiny tweaks that are going to take time. So, the real thing I wanted to talk about is that systems and frameworks are fine, but they shouldn't be cookie cutter for you, because at the end of the day, as I said, we're unique. Everybody's got their own thing. And so embracing the uncomfortable level of, okay, understanding this system, this framework, it worked for so and so or Jimmy Bill over here, but you actually take it and use what you think will work for you. Let's say you work third shift. Well, waking up at 5 in the morning isn't going to work because you're already up late already because you're working during that time. So the next thing I'd cover is the power of no. All right. So what's going to happen is as you start to change, you're actually leaving behind the person you were. Okay. And so for a period of time, you're going to be straddling who you were or are versus who you want to be. Okay. And at some point, you're going to have to decide which one you want to go to. Now, many people, and I've found it's very hard for me personally sometimes, is that you are going to have to let go of the person you were, as in I don't want to say spiritual death, but a death of sorts, because the person you were, you have to let them go, because now you're going to embrace new habits that are actually going to help you be better and grow the way you want to. And so, learning the power of no, because I have a point, I'm getting back to it. The power of no is going to help you cut out the people that want you to stay back here. And the power of yes to the right things is going to get you to where you want to be. And whether that's a week from now, 3 months, a year, 5 years, whatever, what have you. It really depends on what you want to do, right? I knew I wanted to finish my master's. So I went from a period of not being a student to being a student. And that took me a year to finish my master's. And then at the end of it, I was a different person. I was more educated, for all intents and purposes, in my chosen field that I wanted to be in. So the power of no, you are going to lose people that want you to stay static. But if you've learned anything about cellular biology or anything like that, or metabolism, we don't stay the same. Our blood gets recycled, our cells die and renew, our hair grows. Like, we are literally changing at the cellular level at all times. So the idea of stay the same with the same behaviors is actually false, because you're changing all the time. Now, I want to point out the I want to point out the positives of having a structure. Okay, structure is good because you're going to have structured work sessions where you're working on yourself and working on what you believe is actually going to be kind of the best shoe moving forward for you and your progress. That's why I say the learning that you're an individual and then the tiny tweaks, right, that you can adjust each day. And it just depends on what your individual goals are. Okay, and I can't help you with that. I can help keep you accountable. Anybody could, but it's really about setting the boundaries for what you want moving forward and remembering that real change and real growth is actually quite messy and very uncomfortable. Which brings me to um, my next point, which is suffering. Growth is not the glamorous, montage that Hollywood would have you believe. What montages do is they gloss over the actual hard work that's needed to develop. So I wanted to point out that, while structure is good, you're going to have to learn to suffer a bit. And that means doing things that you don't want to do, doing things that other people might make fun of you for, might criticize you for, but that's going to give you the high level signal that those are people that you need to cut because they're not going the same place you're going. You're going this way, and they're either growing in a different direction with their own company or their own family. And that's why you see a lot of people in high school drift apart because everybody starts going in different directions and growing at different levels, right? And you've seen a lot of this on, I know I have, on social media where they talk about people growing at different levels and that I think Gary Vee talks about this a lot, where your level of growing is going to be different than somebody else's. They're growing at different levels. Your thing might be financial freedom, living off $5,000 a month in a cabin in the woods where you're just free to do your own thing. Theirs might be high level career with the perfect family or the perfect husband. Depends on what you're looking for. But the levels of growth are different. I had an acquaintance where their thing was like, I just want to make as much money as possible. And then what I found for myself is that when I had as much money as I'd ever had in my life, I still wasn't that happy. And so that taught me a very valuable lesson that, just because you have the thing you wished for does not make it that you are going to fill the hole that you had. Okay. So, um, one thing I just want to leave you with here is that suffering is a tool, but it should not be the end goal. And what I mean by that is that you should have the goal in life. Like, let's say it's to write for 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it is, or make videos, whatever your content is. Suffer. So the goal is that, but you're going to get to the goal by suffering for a bit. And that can be a hard thing to kind of register. But it's only a temporary tool to unlock the hidden potential of, like I said, you're both here and you're here. But at some point, you have to embrace the suffering to get you to that next level of where you want to be at. But then guess what? You're still going to have the next goal. All right. Let's say my thing is doing 2 videos a day. Eventually, I'm going to want to do 3 videos a day, 4. You want to keep growing, and you want to keep that season of growth manageable, but you still want to have production moving forward. So what that basically means is, you want to use your senses as the foundation to recognize signal, because our senses, our taste, our smell, our physical touch, and our eyes and our hearing is how we track signal for communication. Now, you can do the same thing with all the stuff that you just don't really want to do. I've been there. If the roads were clear, I'd probably be on a run right now. And I realized that the best way for me to suffer is to go on long distance, bike rides or runs or walks, because that's just stuff I don't like or want to do. And so the only way to get better at it is to actually put myself in a position to suffer, because that's what's going to spark the growth. Okay, we don't grow when we're stagnant. So I just wanted to add that, take joy in the process of suffering, but use suffering as the tool and not the actual end goal. Okay, because it's like money or your phone. They're all tools that you can use to either make your life better or worse. I mean, because you are going to suffer if you don't achieve the goals or work for them. You are going to suffer because you're not going to get to where you want in life. And so that's the episode today, friends. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this, and hit the subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Thank you and have a good day.